It took all of 2 days for me to abandon my commitment to only covering video games, so that went pretty well. But despite the already growing fatigue many people feel with regards to the current pandemic, GameStop just went for triple jeopardy with their response and probably did irreparable damage to their reputation for as long as the faltering business manages to limp along in the future. GameStop is technically about as related to video games as it can get, so not total abandonment, honestly, but even so, with an issue this large, and it is large, trust me, I feel like putting a temporary hold on my hyper-focus of positive gaming elements like indie spotlights or reviews, I feel like that might be warranted. The background is pretty simple. GameStop has been struggling these past few days with providing sanitary cleaning supplies to their employees while also remaining open in the face of a lot of other business closures. That's not a new story. That's been well and truly hashed out by news media and content creators already, but on the heels of this negative press, GameStop has decided to go nuclear and remain open in the face of actual mandated shutdowns. This right here is an internal memo obtained from within GameStop which says the following: due to the products we carry that enable and enhance our customers' experience in working from home, we believe GameStop is classified as essential retail and therefore is able to remain open during this time. We have received reports of local authorities visiting stores in an attempt to enforce closure despite our classification. Store managers are approved to provide the document linked below to law enforcement as needed. Now, unfortunately, I was not able to find the actual law enforcement letter visible anywhere online. It may leak in the coming days, that's entirely possible, but as of right now, I was not able to view it myself. The language in this letter insinuates an official classification of essential retail in order to flat out refuse local law enforcement. But simultaneously, this letter also states we believe GameStop is classified as essential retail. That simply is not true. It's not true with a spin, it's not true with a corporate lens, it's just flat out not true. And the fact that GameStop is asking their employees to do this, it's a big deal. This has already blown up in their face. The hashtag boycott GameStop is trending, the public is outraged, and they're getting railed for it from every possible angle. Not to mention the now fully possible ramifications from a legal and governmental perspective, as they continue to host video game launch day sales crowds, which risk infection for hundreds of customers, as well as their own employees, and very easily cross the max occupancy threshold that has started to be enforced in certain states, of 50, sometimes 10 people maximum. This is off the deep end, and GameStop doesn't seem to care, but that's just the start. Surprisingly, monumentally, that is really just the start. On top of this, Camelot 331 very recently snuck into a GameStop regional conference call, and the discussion he overheard is pretty shocking. It's a very long call, so to summarize, I will play a couple of questions from store managers directly in the call, who are frankly heroes and deserve to be commended, where they call out the executive team for their emphasis on GameStop being a hot location and capitalizing on this pandemic to line their own pockets at the expense of customer and employee safety.
Anybody else? It's Cody
Hey
from
Tim,
Big
it's Joanne at 862.
Hi.
I am in a situation where we had a staff member text me, and she's going to self-isolate. And with everything that's going on, I have a few staff that are a little on edge, right? And my thought process as we talk about this is like, okay, so we go ahead, we do these launches, we're going to have mass amount of people. Has we thought farther ahead to say, I can't control people that come out of isolation to get a game, if not they're sick, because really we can't control that, nor can you. And these bigger gatherings of 50 people or more, and we're having all these people going in our store, what if people do get more of the spread and stuff happens, and like what if more people become sick because of certain things out of our control?
It's out of your control, right? It just is, and that's the same for all of us. You know, I could go to the gas station today and use the pump after somebody who's exposed me to it. You know, yeah. Or I could touch a product that somebody touched at the Shoppers Drug Mart, and you could get it. Unfortunately, so yeah. I think the same sort of thing. We got to look at the communication, as Janine mentioned, about self-isolation and also communicating with your field leader on it. If people are getting sick or they think they have the symptoms, they got to self-isolate. They got to stay at home, right? They got to quarantine themselves, and that's why it's important to keep communicating. But we don't know the turnout for Friday. There's no doubt about it. It could be people who decided to stay away. There's not a perfect answer for you because it's day by day. and we got to follow the direction of the government. And this is why, Janine and I, as executives in this company, and with Jim and the other executives, are talking every day about it.
So Leah from 83. So this is just something that I've kind of been noticing throughout the couple days amongst like customers and other staff members, and then like even on this call, like in regards to like our company, our image, and what we're doing to participate in helping to stop the spread of COVID-19. Honestly, like it feels like we're being really tarnished, guys. Like just to like put it very bluntly, like even our customers, our staff, like everybody's very clearly scared. And I know we're saying we're not trying to encourage people to go out. We're not trying to do this by hosting like even a big game launch. Like we are trying to encourage people to come and grab it, right? Like we're doing our pre-order calls. We're doing all that stuff. We're getting people to come in and pick up. I know we're a business. Trust me. I definitely understand this. But even in this call alone, I've heard you, like people said, we're a hot location, but we're not inviting people in. We can't control what people are doing outside of our store while we're monitoring how many people are coming in at a time. But by having these launches, having these situations, having these sales, we are encouraging people to sit in large groups and everything like that and come in. We're encouraging like close quarter contact. Like look at Calgary, how quickly they've jumped from just one gathering. What happens if it ends up somebody who should be in quarantine but decided that they absolutely have to have this collector's edition for the game, or their family who's not exhibiting symptoms right now comes in to grab it for them. They get a whole bunch of people infected, and then one of our locations is now a reason why so many people are sick, and there's such a strain on society and our health system. Like, what are we going to do at this point? I know it's a tough question. I know you guys are trying to do things day by day, but we have to start thinking ahead of this too.
The rest of the call is riddled with similar things. When asked about when more cleaning supplies would be available, since staff are honestly scared for their jobs, their livelihoods, and scared for their health, most of all, corporate said, "We are trying to get them to you next week." When asked whether or not the stores would ever close down, corporate said it's a day-by-day discussion. When asked about payment, sick leave, and whether or not employees would be taken care of, corporate said it's an imperfect world. We don't know. The entire call is a PR spin tactic to pacify store managers while the corporate officers all work from home. The high-ranking executives are only responding to email during this time. Certain departments are actually, as per the conference call, only working via email, not phone calls, because those offices are now shut down and working from remote locations to avoid the pandemic. But floor workers and individual stores are not only open, they are continuing to launch popular games, encouraging customers to attend and becoming a hotbed for transmission. GameStop's behavior is unconscionable, but to go even further, the motivation they hold is of the worst caliber, kind, and order imaginable. This is a message I received immediately after publicly criticizing the behavior of GameStop tonight on Twitter. Keep in mind, I cannot legitimately verify this source to be absolutely certain. I have not seen their employee ID, for example, or anything like that, but it would track extremely well with everything else we have discussed, so I'm choosing wholeheartedly to take them at their word. The source claims to be an employee for EB Games in Canada and goes on to say the following. EB Games in Canada is similarly bad compared to GameStop. They are refusing to shut down. I'm direct messaging you this instead of tweeting at you because I'm an employee of EB Games. Everyone at the head office is self-isolating, aka working from home, while they keep stores open just because they've seen a surge in sales due to the extended 3-week March break we have here. The past week of sales has been greater than the month of February, and that's why they are refusing to close down. This is not surprising nor unexpected, because contrary to what some gamers may believe, EB Games is not a separate entity when compared to GameStop. The customer and employee treatment at the two retail locations may be somewhat different, especially abroad in other countries away from America, but these two companies merged in 2005 to become one corporate entity. When you refer to GameStop's corporate structure and culture, you are also referring to EB Games. All the things we have discussed here could very well apply, word for word, to EB Games and all of their retail locations as well. And with even the executives in a regional conference call referring to the store as being a hot location during this event, it signifies a boost in their sales pattern that right now, faltering on the edge of bankruptcy, having shed before the crash these past few weeks, by the way, over 90% of their share price in a few years, GameStop needs needs this boost. They need the increased sales, and they are choosing profits over human health and safety, both for customers and employees. This goes far beyond any reasonable outrage typically endured in the gaming space on a daily basis. At the beginning of this entire event, I myself advocated caution at the prospect of condemning supply chains or medical supply availability through impulsive lockdown. I still do advocate against the panicked shutdown of industries and locations that might have a real tangible impact on citizen health and safety. But GameStop is not one of those locations. The simple fact is, shutting down certain aspects of modern life would lead to an unexpected and catastrophic strain on household stability. I was told very recently by a viewer of the channel, after some of my outbursts on this topic through Twitter, about how a family member has a heart transplant and needs certain drugs to prevent his body from rejecting the heart. These drugs are needed frequently and must be picked up, paid for, and then administered, so having proper supply lines remains crucial. Blindly advocating for shutdown because you read a bunch of hashtag social distancing posts on social media is ignorant and obnoxious, because many families have actual tangible needs that supersede the desires of these safety first, lockdown now morons. Shutdown cannot happen till supply line continuity is assured. It cannot happen till there are measures in place to avoid eviction, debt escalation, joblessness, and these measures are starting to happen. There are major steps being taken, but it's still a work in progress. If you don't do these things, you create an entirely separate crisis later on. GameStop, short of providing income to certain employee families with extreme or unanticipated subsequent needs in direct relation to that income, is not essential in any way, shape, or form. GameStop is on par with nightclubs, for example. It's fun, but you'll survive. And in absolutely no conceivable way can it reasonably be tied to essential retail, when true essential retail are locations like drug pharmacies or supermarkets for food. Even the one measure of essential function that GameStop provides, that being employee income, rests squarely on the shoulders of the corporate executives to continue and guarantee. No other aspect of their entire business model matters in a time such as this, and the only reason they remain open is because with a mandated and often voluntary shutdown occurring all across the nation and in many areas around the entire world right now, the traffic to their storefronts is increasing, because what are people gonna do in a quarantine? Video games are a pretty appealing option. This is also compounded by the fact that many customers are not typical day-to-day gamers. They are merely everyday citizens finding out, wow, I now have multiple weeks to fill with nothing to do, while I stay in my home and eat food that I stockpiled. This demographic might not even know about digital downloads or direct from publisher sales, or the other avenues to purchase games, so they go to the store for themselves, for their kids, whatever it may be, and GameStop wants this to happen. On the conference call, they denied an employee asking if they could please stop accepting turn-ins because as the infection spreads, many individuals and families find themselves in need of cash. There could be layoffs or joblessness to contend with, and as money becomes a primary focus, selling old game consoles and hardware will increase. GameStop knows this. They are witnessing it happen, and their response is to capitalize on the desperation, on the boredom, and on the pandemic itself to fuel their pathetic, dying retail model by contributing to the spread of a disease that is now causing fear and harm to their very own customers and employees. This is one aspect of greed, but not all companies operate this way. People may be quick to cite corporate culture as the problem, but a counterexample I would like to highlight is T-Mobile. T-Mobile stepped up in this time of crisis and guaranteed that all paying customers with a plan that included data in any capacity would now have unlimited data for free. This is especially relevant because with a news cycle evolving by the very minute, many citizens are glued to their phone screen, and those without unlimited data plans would probably run out in hours. This action makes it so that more customers can see critical information or continue to work from home. It is also an action that was taken despite an opportunity for profit if they simply capitalized on the frantic need to stay informed via the World Wide Web. And it proves that some companies, while still motivated by profit, understand the balance between doing what's right and doing what is lucrative. GameStop has totally and completely lost sight of that reality. With their actions, GameStop are pushing back against safety mandates by local and national governmental bodies. They are ignoring health measures, deliberately incentivizing customers to gather in large groups at their stores and pawning off the inevitable ramifications of that on anyone but themselves. To be clear, I am not talking about the floor workers who are tired, scared, and simply doing what is mandated out of fear for their jobs. I am talking about the corporate offices, the executives, and the top-down decision makers. I will never personally support GameStop ever again. again, I will actively seek to spread awareness of what they really are with a desire to see them brutally forced by customer action into changing their policies and their protocols. And I know that this is a minimal effect when compared to a massive corporation, but all factors considered, GameStop is a disgusting display of failure and greed from every conceivable angle, embodied in a company that is now leveraging a worldwide pandemic at the expense of health and safety to fuel their inadequate and pathetic business as it limps along waiting to die. But that's it. I'll never support GameStop ever again, and you shouldn't either. If you want to support, there are links down below. Double upload today, which is rare, but I have nothing else to do, and this was a breaking topic of pretty epic proportion, so here we are. Merch, Twitter, Patreon, and another YouTuber's channel linked down below. Please support all of them, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.